Have you ever gotten out of bed and suddenly felt like the entire world was spinning around you? That feeling of imbalance so strong that it makes you grab onto the first thing you see, afraid you might fall. If you're over 45 and have experienced this scary sensation, you need to know a truth that many doctors don't tell you. 80% of morning dizziness cases aren't caused by what you think. In fact, a single movement you make every day, right when you wake up, could be silently destroying your balance. And the most surprising part, fixing this simple movement can completely eliminate the dizziness in a matter of seconds. Today, I'm going to reveal exactly what this movement is and how to fix it naturally. As a specialist doctor in balance disorders for over 25 years, I've treated more than 8,700 patients complaining of dizziness when getting out of bed. According to data from the Mayo Clinic, over 42% of people above age 50 have experienced at least one significant episode of morning vertigo. That spinning sensation that can leave anyone terrified. The problem is that most of these people believe this is just getting old or a low blood pressure problem, when in reality, the main cause is related to a single movement we instinctively make when getting out of bed every morning. This seemingly harmless movement can trigger a cascade of reactions in your balance system, causing everything from mild dizziness to incapacitating vertigo that can last hours or even days. Today, I'm going to explain exactly how this movement affects your inner ear, the body's true GPS, and how a simple correction can bring immediate and lasting relief. Let's start by understanding why this specific movement is so harmful and how it silently sabotages your balance every morning. Before revealing the specific movement that's causing your dizziness, we need to understand how your body's delicate balance system works. Inside your inner ear, there's a structure called the vestibular labyrinth, which works exactly like the gyroscope in a modern smartphone. This system is made up of 3 semicircular canals filled with a special fluid and tiny calcium crystals that tell your brain about your head's position in space. When you move normally, these crystals stay in the right place, sending precise signals that keep your balance perfect. The problem starts when these small crystals move to areas where they shouldn't be. Imagine it's like having pebbles inside your shoe, causing discomfort with every step. That's exactly what happens in the medical condition called benign paroxysmal positional vertigo (BP), responsible for approximately 65% of morning dizziness cases, according to research from Johns Hopkins Medicine. Rosa, 68 years old, a retired nurse, came to me after 3 months suffering from intense dizziness every morning. "Doctor, I was terrified to wake up. The moment I sat up in bed, the room would start spinning so hard that I had to close my eyes and hold onto the headboard. My daughter started sleeping in the next room, afraid I would fall and hurt myself. I was beginning to believe I had something serious, maybe a tumor or a silent stroke." Rosa's case is extremely common. Many patients come to my office fearing the worst, when in reality they're suffering from something completely treatable. She, like so many others, was making the critical wrong movement, sitting up in bed and immediately turning her neck to look at the clock or grab something from the nightstand. This seemingly simple movement is the main culprit behind the displacement of calcium crystals in the inner ear, especially after hours lying down when the vestibular system's fluid is more stagnant. To understand better, imagine that your inner ear is like a delicate navigation compass. During sleep, this compass rests in a horizontal position. When you wake up and make a sudden rotating movement with your head, especially combining sitting up and turning at the same time, it's as if you're violently shaking that compass, causing its internal parts to become disorganized. It's precisely at this moment that the calcium crystals can shift into the semicircular canals, causing a real short circuit in the balance information sent to your brain. The result, an intense sensation that the world is spinning around you, often accompanied by nausea, cold sweats, and even falls. Rosa learned to correct this movement, and in just 3 days, she already felt a significant difference. After a week, she called me emotionally. "Doctor, it seems like magic. I don't feel anything anymore. Absolutely no dizziness when getting up." But it's not enough to just know what the problematic movement is. It's essential to understand how to correct it effectively and permanently. The good news is that there's a simple and scientifically proven technique to prevent this wrong movement from causing dizziness. It's known as the segmented rising technique and has been validated by several studies, including research from the University of Michigan that demonstrated an 89% reduction in morning vertigo episodes among participants who adopted this approach. Joe, 65 years old, a former bus driver, came to my office practically desperate. "Doctor, I don't drive anymore because of this dizziness. I'm afraid of feeling sick in traffic and causing an accident. Every morning, it's the same thing. I wake up, sit on the bed, turn to the side to talk to my wife, and it feels like I'm inside a blender. I've been to 3 doctors and they all say it's my age or a blood pressure problem. Joe's case is particularly important because it illustrates how many professionals still don't give proper attention to this specific problem. After explaining to him about the balance crystals in the inner ear and how the sudden rotational movement was causing his symptoms, I taught him the segmented rising technique, which consists of 3 simple steps. First, when you wake up, stay lying down for an additional 30 seconds, allowing the vestibular fluid to stabilize naturally. Second, without turning your neck, use your arms to raise yourself to a sitting position and keep your head facing forward, fixing your gaze on a specific point in front of you. Finally, remain in this position for another 30 seconds before turning your entire body, not just your neck, to get out of bed. This sequence of movements allows the crystals in the inner ear to remain stable, avoiding that false alarm that triggers the sensation of vertigo. The science behind this technique is fascinating. Studies published in the Journal of Vestibular Research demonstrated that segmented movements reduce the angular acceleration of fluids inside the semicircular canals by up to 70%, drastically minimizing the chance of calcium crystal displacement. Joel strictly followed this guidance, and after just 5 days, sent me a message. "I cherish doctor. You gave me my life back." Today I got up without feeling anything, not even a little bit of dizziness. My wife couldn't believe it when she saw me walking normally around the room first thing in the morning. The beauty of this technique lies in its simplicity. It doesn't require medications, special equipment, or invasive procedures. It's just a change in movement pattern that can make all the difference between starting the day with incapacitating dizziness or with stability and confidence. However, for some patients, just correcting the morning movement may not be enough, especially if the calcium crystals have been displaced for a long time. In these cases, I teach a complementary technique known as the modified repositioning maneuver, which can be performed at home, in your own bed, even before getting up. Carlos, 61 years old, a real estate agent, had been suffering from morning dizziness for almost 2 years. "Doctor, I was already thinking about selling my apartment and buying a single-story house because I was terrified of the stairs first thing in the morning. I've already fallen twice, and the last time I hurt my wrist. My kids were talking about hiring a caregiver, and I'm only 61. I felt like an invalid." Carlos's case illustrates how morning dizziness can profoundly affect people's quality of life and independence. For him, in addition to the segmented rising technique, I taught the modified repositioning maneuver, which consists of specific head movements that help guide the displaced crystals back to their original position in the inner ear. This maneuver is an adapted version of the famous Epley maneuver used by ENT doctors worldwide, but modified to be performed in your own bed without assistance. The sequence involves lying on your back, slowly turning your head 45 degrees to the right and holding that position for 30 seconds. Then turn your head 90 degrees to the opposite side left and hold for another 30 seconds. Finally, roll your body to the left side and remain in this position for another 30 seconds before sitting up slowly. The total time for the maneuver is just 2 minutes, but the results can be impressive. Carlos performed the maneuver daily for a week and strictly followed the segmented rising technique. After 10 days, he returned to the office with a smile I hadn't seen in a long time. "Doctor, I didn't even remember what it was like to wake up without dizziness. Now I feel 20 years younger. I've already gone up and down the stairs 5 times today just to prove to myself that I can do it." It's important to note that this maneuver should be performed with caution and ideally after professional guidance, especially for people with cervical problems. However, when executed correctly, it can provide lasting relief even for chronic cases of morning vertigo. In addition to correcting the problematic movement and performing repositioning maneuvers, there are some complementary measures that can strengthen your balance system and prevent future episodes of dizziness. Anna, 72 years old, grandmother of 5 grandchildren, came to my office after severe dizziness prevented her from attending her oldest grandson's graduation. "Doctor, it was the saddest day of my life. I was getting ready, sat on the bed and turned to grab my glasses from the nightstand. Suddenly, everything started spinning so hard that I fell back on the bed and couldn't even open my eyes without feeling nauseous. My daughter had to take me to the emergency room and I missed the graduation. I'm afraid this will happen again at my granddaughter's wedding next month." Ana's emotional account shows how vertigo can steal precious moments from a person's life. after teaching her both the segmented rising technique and the repositioning maneuver. I also recommended some fundamental complementary practices to naturally strengthen her vestibular system. The first recommendation was adequate intake of vitamin D and calcium, essential nutrients for vestibular system health. Research from the Cleveland Clinic demonstrated that patients with low vitamin D levels are 3.8 times more likely to develop recurrent bppv. Anna started getting moderate sun exposure every morning, and including foods rich in these nutrients, such as sardines, egg yolks, and dairy products. Additionally, I recommended specific gaze stabilization exercises, known as vestibular habituation exercises, which help train the brain to better process balance information. A simple exercise consists of sitting in a chair, choosing a point on the wall at eye level, and turning your head horizontally from side to side while maintaining visual focus on that point. Starting with slow movements and gradually increasing the speed. This exercise strengthens the neural connections responsible for balance. Anna faithfully followed all recommendations, and 2 days before her granddaughter's wedding, sent me a beautiful photo. "Doctor, I'm trying on my dress for the big day. Thanks to you, I'm no longer afraid of missing these moments because of dizziness. It's been 3 weeks since I've woken up every day without any problem." Anna's case exemplifies how an integrated approach, correcting the problematic movement, performing repositioning maneuvers, and strengthening the vestibular system can provide not only symptom relief, but also restore confidence and quality of life. A frequently overlooked but extremely important aspect in managing morning dizziness is the organization of your bedroom environment. Pedro, 55 years old, a technology sector businessman, came to me after suffering from severe dizziness for over 6 months. "Doctor, I was already considering selling my company. How can I lead a team if I can't even get out of bed without feeling like I'm going to pass out? I've done every possible test, taken medications for labyrinthitis, blood pressure, even antidepressants, and nothing worked." The worst part is that the episodes were becoming more frequent and intense. Pedro's case illustrates how morning dizziness can severely impact even professional life. After a detailed analysis of his routine, I discovered that in addition to the sudden rotational movement when getting up, Pedro had the habit of checking messages on his phone immediately upon waking, which intensified the problem even more. The screen brightness, combined with the need for visual focus on a nearby object right after waking, overloaded his already compromised vestibular system. In addition to teaching the segmented rising technique and the repositioning maneuver, I guided Pedro to reorganize his environment to minimize the need for head rotation right after waking. I recommended positioning essential items like glasses, phone, and water in a location that could be reached without turning the neck, preferably on an adjustable nightstand at bed height. I also suggested installing a soft nightlight that would stay on all night, eliminating the need for sudden movements to turn on the lamp. A particularly effective measure was elevating the head of the bed by approximately 15 degrees, which helps reduce pressure on the vestibular system during sleep and facilitates the transition to a sitting position in the morning. These simple modifications, combined with the previous techniques, produced remarkable results. After just 2 weeks, Pedro returned to the office with a completely different posture. "Doctor, I didn't believe that such simple changes could make such a difference. It's been 10 days since I've had absolutely no dizziness when getting up. I've already gone back to my morning meetings, and my team has noticed the difference in my mood and energy." Pedro's case demonstrates how a holistic approach, considering both movements and environment, can enhance results in treating morning dizziness. A crucial factor that frequently aggravates dizziness when getting out of bed is sleep quality and nighttime habits. Lucia, 63 years old, a homemaker, came to me after seeing various specialists without finding a solution for her morning dizziness. "Doctor, I've been suffering from this for almost a year now. The worst part is that some days are terrible, with dizziness so strong that I need to stay in bed all morning, while on other days I barely feel anything. No doctor has been able to explain why there's such a big variation." Lucia's account brings up an important aspect: the inconsistency of symptoms, which often confuses both patients and doctors. After a thorough investigation of her habits, I identified that the nights when Lucia took a sleeping pill or consumed alcohol were precisely the ones that preceded mornings with the most intense dizziness. This happens because both sedatives and alcohol affect REM sleep quality, a crucial phase for natural calibration of the vestibular system during the night. Additionally, these substances can excessively relax cervical muscles, increasing the likelihood of sudden unconscious movements during sleep, which can displace the inner ear crystals even before waking. I guided Lucia to gradually discontinue the use of sleeping medications, always with her doctor's supervision. Eliminate alcohol consumption in the 3 hours before bedtime and implement a progressive relaxation routine before sleep. I also recommended using an orthopedic pillow that would keep her cervical spine properly aligned throughout the night. To complement, I suggested a set of gentle cervical stretching exercises to perform before bed, helping to relax neck muscles and reduce tension accumulated during the day. Lucia strictly followed all the guidelines and, after 3 weeks, returned with a detailed diary I had suggested she keep. Doctor, you were right. On days when I don't take the sleeping pill and do the relaxation exercises, I wake up without any dizziness. I've already been able to reduce the medication by half and plan to stop completely in the coming weeks. Finally, it's essential to understand that stress and anxiety can significantly intensify morning dizziness, creating a vicious cycle that's hard to break. Roberto, 70 years old, a retired doctor, came to me with a particularly interesting case. Doctor, as a physician, I should understand what's happening to me, but I confess I'm perplexed. My dizziness started right after my wife's death 8 months ago. At first, I thought it was just stress, but now it happens almost every morning. The most curious thing is that on weekends, when I go to my country house and sleep there, I rarely feel dizzy when I wake up. Roberto's account highlights the complex interaction between emotional and physical factors in the manifestation of vertigo. Studies from Stanford University demonstrated that chronic stress can increase vestibular system sensitivity and lower the threshold for triggering vertigo, even with movements that normally wouldn't cause problems. In other words, under intense stress, even a slight rotational movement of the head can be enough to precipitate an episode of dizziness. Furthermore, anxiety related to the fear of feeling dizzy again creates a state of hypervigilance that further amplifies. The symptom's a real fire alarm that goes off at the slightest sign of smoke. After understanding how this wrong movement when getting out of bed may be causing your morning dizziness and learning about the various strategies to correct it, you might be wondering, will this really work for me? You don't have to let dizziness control how you start your day anymore. Imagine waking up tomorrow, implementing the segmented rising technique I taught, and for the first time in a long while, feeling stable and confident in the first hours of the morning, and then repeating that experience the next day and the next until waking up without dizziness becomes your new normal. This journey to recover your balance starts with a single step, or rather, with a single correct movement. Which of the techniques I shared today will you try first? Will it be the segmented rising technique, the repositioning maneuvers, or perhaps reorganizing your sleep environment? If this video helped you better understand the cause of your morning dizziness and gave you hope that there's a solution, please hit that like button and share it with someone you know who might also be silently suffering from this problem. Your questions and experiences are extremely important to me, so don't hesitate to comment below. And if you want to receive more information about how to take care of your health naturally and effectively, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Remember, a single correct movement can be the difference between a day ruined by dizziness and a day lived with balance and vitality. The choice is yours, and it starts tomorrow morning, the moment you open your eyes.